The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. I am Supernal, and this is Artist Spotlight. Now, I know some of you at least probably are aware of a particular type of mobile game. Of course, you can see from the artwork, the bottom left, Legends of the Cryptids, but there's a whole bunch of these kind of games. It's essentially kind of like card games that you collect various, it's like a TCG, right? Tradable card game. And they have, you can, whoever creates the games monetize in some way and whatnot. But if you just kind of play along, you eventually can get like some cool cards and whatnot and fight against people. There's like some AI elements to it and like guilds and shit. And it's actually, not really all too bad. I play one called Dark Summoner, and there's some really fantastic art for not just that game, but this game too, Legend of the Cryptids. I've seen a whole bunch of this, and I'm just like, man, who are the people that make this stuff? And well, this artist, Another Wanderer, aka Laura, her art is top notch. So let's take a look at it. The first piece, Siphona, I believe this is. Now, one thing to make a point, a lot of these various card games will have quite a bit, to some degree, a little bit of lewdness to them, or at least a lot of female characters. And I think the reason for that should be fairly obvious, but it's pretty great because it gives people an immense reason to make some badass female characters. And, man, just the level of, I think this is kind of the sort of aesthetic of this game too. A lot of their cards tend to have this particular level of just immense realism, which you're definitely getting a lot from this. I mean, I definitely get that vibe. There's an intense focus on realism, but also it doesn't go too fantastical. There's not an immense sort of style to it, in terms of the, as much of a variance or playfulness in terms of, it's very, I want to say straightforward in terms of how it's built up. And you kind of see what I mean. If you compare this to other artists, you can kind of tell that, there's much, in order to create, that's the thing, in order to create the photorealistic look, it has to look like, as the name suggests, it has to seem like it's a photo, and this definitely does. I mean, it is pretty damn spot on, and all of that is an immense focus on the lighting. You gotta get the lighting right. But beyond that, not only his particular character and the focus of all of it, and just, man, really having an immense detail, really a lot of attention paid towards each piece of, all the textures and the way light goes off of it, her blouse and everything. It does seem like it's kind of silky, and some silks are a little more refractive, So if you wanted to seem photorealistic, you gotta kind of do that, which is hard. It's not easy. And having to kind of know how it looks to create that, it's difficult. So I really give Laura immense props for that, because it's not easy. And of course, like a lot of things, once you do it enough, you kind of get the gist of it. But beyond that, just putting all the effort into the whole composition, I really like how the entire canvas is fleshed out, and just the layers of everything, having a lot of depth to this. There's an immense amount going on. You have those mountains in the back on the right kind of pulling in, so using that piece to give that depth, having enough sort of pulling into the front, but then having that sort of sky element. And going from the right, there definitely doesn't seem like it's just a flat, line of people. There is sort of an angle to it, and it's kind of curving around, because on the left, those particular characters have much more detail to them, they're more fleshed out, and as you go to the right and kind of up, they're not as fleshed out, and they become much more ephemeral and ghosty. Well, that's also kind of, when those spirits and everything are popped into the light, you see them more, but you see through them more, too. And they almost merge with the light. So when they're in much sort of darker light, not direct light, there's much more gradation of sort of the color going on there, which I like. It's good attention to detail, and especially I think it fits well with the style of the game too. It tends to have that sort of, I almost want to call it like a Baroque, like Renaissance fantasy kind of feel to it. Definitely has some of those elements going on there. But to make a greater point for this, the second piece, which I believe is titled Shilk Nile, again, you kind of, as I mentioned, that sort of Renaissance piece. A lot of these sort of backgrounds, especially this has sort of a cityscape to it. Definitely kind of looks like it's from Europe. It's got that kind of feel to it. I really like how, again, having, you notice from that the first one, the first piece, only just about maybe a quarter, a certain quadrant was used to sort of push the piece backwards and to create that depth. Again here, and it's a different spot. It's at the top left instead of the bottom right. And that whole just little section is entirely used just to create that depth. It goes all the way back and building, that little top of that building there, sort of where her knee is, that's fairly close. And then you got behind that, dun, 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 dun. You can see even some of the buildings kind of flush in with the horizon. Well, there's mountains back there, so you show some of the green mountains popping out, and so on and so forth. And having a little bit of the water there, great, really sets the scene too, as well. And I like a lot of artworks too that don't make the lighting too obvious, where you see the sun like in the background. I mean, that's kind of easy to do. Bob Ross would do that a lot in his work. It's like, all right, here's what the sun is. All right, okay. Sun doesn't always have to be in the canvas. It can be, that's actually how you get some more dynamic and interesting lighting. I mean, imagine if the sun was literally like where you are as a viewer, and so it's directly hitting, or at least the light source doesn't have to be the sun, but the light source is directly, hitting sort of the front, right? Whereas this, it's essentially kind of off canvas and sort of diagonally to the right, in essence. So that's hitting her wings and everything in her back, and so the lighting is done extremely well to show all of that. And that's a very important part that is at least something that you do, I don't know, step 2 or 3, after you do like an initial kind of rough sketch and get the ideas out. You essentially want to, okay, I've got the idea of what I want to do, where's the lighting coming from? And then you have to figure that out. And once you figure that out, then you have to be cognizant of, okay, where is your lighting the entire time when you're building it? Because if you kind of forget, or if you make it seem like it's coming from somewhere else, it's going to be kind of confusing. But especially when you have multiple light sources, well, then that becomes a little more tricky. But nonetheless, again, focusing on that sort of the detail and everything, it's not too fantastical. Like I said, it's kind of got this this good utility to it, but there's enough attention to detail and a good variance of everything as well. In this one, again, not necessarily too lewd, but again, nice, awesome female characters. And as well, with the last one here, which I believe is titled Anelli. Oh yes. Now kind of switching in, you gotta have fantasy, so you gotta have the whole range. You gotta have sort of a cute kind of sort of girl with her spirits and everything. You gotta have a winged chick with a awesome ass mace. Well, of course, you gotta have sort of bat wings with demon horns. Fairly straightforward, and it works. It does really well. And goddamn, if you look at the texture and the veins and everything that's done for the wings, really great. I mean, it's awesome. With and a good way to get this, especially if you're trying to, and it's hard to tell from certain artists, because you can come at this from many different ways. It's either you don't really know how something kind of looks. It's like, okay, I want it to look how a bat's wing is supposed to look, or whatever, right? Or how does a horn look? It's like, well, do you want it to look how you think it should look, or do you want it to literally be how how it ought to look, in sort of our reality. It all kind of depends on when you go with it. And even then, even when you're looking at a reference photo, even when you're literally trying to transcribe that sort of feel onto your artwork, it's still going to have your own mental kind of capacity, your own look into it. So that's why photorealism is not sort of something that I think a lot of people should focus a lot on, because it kind of, I feel like it's unless you're sort of someone who does like portraits. I mean, that's kind of obvious there. But with stuff like this, I feel like it pulls the art back a little bit to try to go too photorealistic. Because then, like I said, it just looks like it's a photo. It doesn't feel like artwork too much there. You want to have that, it's like, where's your, if you want a photo, you just look at a photograph, but it's artwork, so you look at art because it's the interpretation of a person through their mind's eye, and how they're sort of seeing reality, or at least their sort of imposed reality. And, looking at the wings, sort of what I was kind of getting at is that, wings, they're kind of thin, so the light would come through it, right? So having that definitely shows it here, I think. But the top left, I really like sort of the leatheriness of the wing. Really kind of pulls that in, and as you can see, you're not seeing much of the back end of that wing. So yeah, having it pulled in like that, I think is a really good move. That's really smart. It shows the fullness of it. If you didn't see it at all, or certain parts of it you're just not viewing, like I mentioned before, it's going to look too static. You want to have things kind of going on, or at least sort of caught in the moment. If the wings were at rest, that's the thing. Static / at rest. Don't always just draw or create something when it's at rest. Have it in movement. Or about to be moving, or sort of caught by surprise. Something is acting upon it while it's resting, and at least that is acting upon it. So, you kind of go, right? So like you're surprised, the person's like, oh, they're looking, right? But back to this artwork, the whole Laura definitely has a great skill with lighting. I think this gives a greater focus, as the last two pieces didn't have nearly as much brighter colors necessarily. Well, there's a lot of red in this one, and having the variety of colors, but I really like how the blue was done in the back, right? So as it's going through sort of behind her right shoulder, there's all that blue kind of hue going there. But then as it pulls forward, you can see that there, you have a lot more of that green going on. But having those two elements there, green, blue goes well together. And then reflecting that with what is actually on, what she's wearing. I think Laura likes to use a lot of gold in the armor there, which, hey, looks really regal. And, if you're trying to make, they'll do this a lot with some of the higher level cards in these games. They'll make, a lot of the armors and everything, really regal and just super badass and look almost, very expensive. And, yeah, regal is the good word there. But I like, the attention with the blue, just this slight amount of color around, her chest, pelvis, and then, on the boots. That blue, which then is a little bit brighter and slightly different. But it accentuates the other colors in the background. And same, so the redness that's in the wings and her hair, again, she's then got flowers that has caused her redness in there. So you have a color palette that is used throughout the entirety of it. It's not just, okay, you're going to have this color palette for, the forest is green, blue, and some variations of that. And then, of course, white and black. And then this component is going to have these wholly different colors. You don't want to have... I think it can make it too difficult. More difficult than is necessary to have all of these color palettes just all over the place. and just saying, okay, I'm going to use these 6 colors throughout the entirety of it, then I think it really creates much more harmony, and it makes, like that word again, cohesive. It makes it just mold together really well. I think as a creator, it makes it much easier. You don't have to like remember too many colors, and then you just you do the shading and the gradation, and that's a bit easier to do if you kind of know how to do it. But having enough sort of other various, you got a couple flowers there that are a little purple. There you go, just a little dash. The hair on the back end where it's a little lighter, a little purple there. Having those small accentuations, little other colors that are just kind of randomly popped around, really builds it up and adds just that little extra flavor. Just that little extra flavor, and it really brings it all in together. And her artwork really is pretty damn immense. And hey, maybe you should try that game out too. I tell you, I don't know who it was that first came up with the idea of having just these lewd ass freaking females in all these RPG games and stuff, but god damn, it's just going crazy nowadays. But hey, it's a good thing, especially because, well, if that's kind of what you want to have and that's your shtick with your game, then you need artists like Laura to just bust out some sick ass art to go crazy with it. And I think that's fantastic that a lot of artists are really getting some serious commercial work where they get to just go full bore and really go hardcore with making a super finished artwork. And Laura has a ton of artwork, quite a lot. I think she's been doing this for many years, and really her gallery on DeviantArt and elsewhere is just chock full. So if you dig this kind of art and want to maybe kind of get a maybe better idea of what her artwork looks like, this was just 3 pieces. Take a look at it. You might enjoy it. And I don't think she does commissions or anything like that. But hey, when you do commercial work, you don't necessarily have to do commissions. It makes it a bit nicer. But I'll have, as usual, all of the requisite information below in the shit where it is supposed to go. I wanted to say comments. Why would I put a comment where the info is? That goes where the info is part. You know what I'm fucking talking about. I'm tired. It's Sunday. You all have a good day, motherfuckers.